Breaking news tonight, busted. The feds finally indict a Myrtle Beach pastor, preacher John Paul Miller, after the swamp death shooting of his wife, Micah Miller. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
I just want my family to know where to find me.
Micah, now dead by gunshot wound, her body found submerged in a body of water.
I even tried to raise her from the dead one time.
Did he just say he tried to raise her from the dead and he lay by her body 4 times?
Was she convinced by someone that a possibility?
In the last hours, the feds do what state authorities would not do. They bring down the hammer on the so-called pastor John Paul Miller after the shocking death of his young wife, who he allegedly harassed straight into a gun shop. But first, before I get into those charges, thank you, feds, let's take a listen to the now federal defendant, John Paul Miller, at his finest.
I got this lay next to her body and spent down with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up. I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week, and she was so creative. Everything she did was so creative. I've been speaking for many years, and for the first time, I don't really know exactly, how to open or how to close or any of that.
I'm going to have to play that again. That is from Solid Rock Ministries. Does he actually think I'm buying this? There were no tears and definitely no snot. I need to see that one more time.
I can't wait to see her again one day. I'm good. And that's nothing. She was so creative. It was just always just coming out of her.
So many things just jump out at me. Again, that is from Solid Rock Ministries. For those of you just joining us, the pastor, John Paul Miller, finally facing federal charges in connection to his wife, Micah Miller. First of all, he says, after all these years, speaking, he suggests that he is short of words. He doesn't know what to say, but yet he keeps talking. He says he doesn't like pain. Well, get ready for a boatload of it, John Paul Miller. Joining me and also our panel to make sense of what we are learning, straight out to Alexis Tereszczuk, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Alexis, the feds finally bring down the hammer. This after hundreds and hundreds of online protests appealing to LE law enforcement to bring charges. What are the charges, Alexis Tereszczuk?
He has been charged with cyberstalking, and I'm going to read exactly the indictment that he, John Paul Miller, sent or caused to be sent unwanted and harassing electronic communications to her, used or threatened to use nude videos and photographs of her, posted a nude photo of her online without her consent, placed or caused to be placed a tracking device on her vehicle with the intent to harass and surveil her, and he interfered with her finances, banking, and interfered with her daily activities. He also made a false statement to law enforcement. They said he did knowingly and willfully make a material false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in representation in this case. He said that they had been calling each other back and forth. The Fed said, nope, you called her more than 50 times in one day, harassing her. He said, I never damaged her car tires. They said you actually bought a tool to deflate car tires, and in fact, you caused these tires on her car to be deflated.
That's a lot from the feds. Guys, finally, what many justice champions have longed for since Micah's body was found at the Lumber River State Park. The feds bring down the hammer and do what state authorities refused to do. Listen.
Law enforcement is notified by 911 dispatch that Micah Miller is in Lumber River State Park, and they begin searching. Micah Miller's phone is pinged at 3:20 p.m., and law enforcement has a drone dispatched to the area to help search. At 3:42, Micah's car is located in the parking lot of the Lumber River State Park. Inside the car, investigators find a 9mm 6-hour hard gun case and receipt showing the location of where the weapon was purchased.
Many devotees still insist Micah Miller was murdered, but here is hard evidence.
Investigators at Lumber River State Park are notified by a kayaker at 4:23 p.m. that a body is in the river, and a black bag with ID and money found on the bank of the river is turned over to law enforcement as well. Officers recovered 2 spent casings and 1 live round on the bank of the river, and there's no sign of a physical struggle. A regional pathologist is called to the scene for assistance. Micah Miller is found submerged in the river beside tree limbs, about 100 feet from the casings.
There is a concerning aspect to the discovery of a 9mm Sig Sauer. Dr. Kendall Crowns is joining us. He is a renowned chief medical examiner out of Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth. Never a lack of business in the morgue there. He is the esteemed lecturer at Burnett School of Medicine at TCU, and he is a star of a hit new podcast, Mayhem in the Morgue. Dr. Kendall Crowns, thank you for being with us. The 9mm is removed from the river using a magnet. The serial number on the gun matches the number on the gun case in Micah's car. Is that feasible? That she committed and the SIG is abandoned in the river?
Yes, it is. I mean, her body is found in the river as well. So the potential is she places the gun to the right side of her head, pulls the trigger, and then instantly her body goes limp. She falls into the river while still kind of clutching the gun or holding the gun, or the gun itself just falls into the river and slides down in the mud. Her body falls in, floats away, gun goes into the river as well. It is consistent with someone shooting themselves in the head and then losing body function, dropping the gun and falling into the waterway.
There's also the issue, and let me go to Regina Ward. She is the attorney for Micah Miller's sister. She is with her law firm that she founded, the Regina Ward Law Firm, and she has been staunchly supporting Micah's family since before Micah was killed. Regina Ward, thank you for being with us. Is it true the Sig Sauer was found about 5 feet underwater, submerged from Micah's body?
Well, I can't say for myself if it was true or not, but that's what was reported. Obviously, I wasn't there for that, but I've had several questions about that entire investigation. It was just approached in the wrong manner, in my opinion. So as far as whether it was or not, that's what the report says.
Curious that you would say that. Dr. Kendall Crowns, if the SIG was found, say, 20 or 30 feet away from the body, would you still think it was?
So there's a potential when you shoot yourself in the head for there to be actual movement after the wound occurs. It really depends on what is involved in the brain. There's an area of the brain called the motor strip that kind of sits on the side of your head that controls your function of your arms, your limbs, etc. If that isn't hit, if you go a little more forward, you hit the frontal lobes of your brain, which is more memory, feelings, emotions, things of that nature. You are able to still walk after a gunshot wound to the head, albeit not super far, but you can do that.
In heaven. Do you hear yourself? That after she shoots herself in the head, she can still walk?
Obviously right. It is potential, yes.
Okay. You know, when a witness says something crazy on the stand, I have to declare them a hostile witness, and I have to cross-examine them. And that's what I've got to do now. Dr. Kendall Crowns, of course, you are the medical doctor. I'm just a JD. You're the MD. But let me go out on a limb here. How many times have you seen a victim shoot themselves in the head and their body is still where the gunshot occurred and they continue to walk? How many cases have you personally dealt with like that?
I wouldn't be able to give you an exact percentage. It's a small percentage of cases, but I have seen it.
I didn't ask for a percentage. I asked you how many. I bet you can count them on one finger.
No, I can count it on probably more than 10 fingers. In over 25 years of doing autopsies, I have seen multiple cases of individuals still able to function after shooting themselves in the head. I can't tell you exact numbers while we're sitting.
You said walk. I don't mean function. You said walk. Take steps after they shoot themselves in the head.
Okay, well, I'll rephrase function to walk, but I have seen.
Yes, you go ahead and rephrase it, Crowns.
Walk after shooting themselves in the head, including with shotguns. It is all placement on where you hit yourself in your brain and how much you'll be able to do afterwards. And it depends on where she's shot in her brain, how much movement she can have. But placement of gun, if you're going to do theoretical, yeah, someone can shoot themselves in the head and then walk several feet, maybe even 10 yards away from the gun before they collapse or fall into a river and float away.
Dr. Kendall Crowns, just so you know, you're losing a lot of credibility right now, but I guess you're sticking up from one of your medical examiner friends that performed this autopsy. Dr. Kendall Crowns, there's a fly in the
I'm not sticking up for anybody. I'm just sticking up for science.
Do I have to cut your mic?
Feel free.
There's a fly in the ointment. And that fly in the ointment of your scenario is she would have had to walk through water after she shoots herself in the head. How many cases have you seen like that? Where after the person shoots themselves in the head, they walk out in the water.
So I'm not sure how she's walking in the water. How is she not shooting herself on the riverbank and then falling forward into the water, floating away while the gun floats down underneath her? That part I don't understand.
You know, Dr. Kendall Crowns, you have a second career in writing fiction. In the meantime, while I let Dr. Kendall Crowns think about what he just said, Regina Ward, the significance of this line of questioning is, if the investigation had shown that the weapon, the SIG-9, was substantially far away from her, as if it had been thrown in the river to discard of it after the shooting, that would open up a whole nother investigation, wouldn't it, Regina Ward?
Absolutely, it would. And let me tell you something else that would have opened up a better investigation, in my opinion, is that had the Robeson County authorities who were doing the investigation, had they known about the history of this case and the sheer terror that Mr. Miller put her through and the harassment and so forth, had they known about that history prior to their investigation into her death, they may have approached it a little differently. I feel like that they approached it with the mindset, oh, it's a self-taking of a life, therefore let's go find the proof to prove that's what happened, as opposed to walking into it saying to themselves, this may not be what it appears, so let's look closer for evidence that may prove that it was not a self-taking of the life.
We do, however, and let's see it, control room, we do have her supporting Dr. Kendall Crowns' assertion in a gun store shortly before purchasing the Sig Sauer. That is significant because it can be matched up by serial number. The gun store keeps a log of serial numbers on guns sold. She did buy the weapon. You know, Alexis Tereszczuk, joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter, was outlining the charges in the new federal indictment. For those of you just joining us, the feds bring down the hammer on Pastor John Paul Miller in connection with his wife, Micah Miller, found dead in a public forest. Listen to this.
Just weeks before her death, Micah Miller calls police for help when she finds a tire on her car's flat. Police discover a tire deflator is used on the tire. Micah goes to East Coast Honda in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to get a new tire, where John Paul Miller shows up. The two get into an argument. Video shows John Paul Miller aggressively walking around Micah, threatening to post a picture online, while Micah says, walk away. A mechanic later shows Micah a GPS tracking device had been placed on her car.
a geo-tracking device placed on her car. Video has actually caught John Paul Miller aggressively walking around Micah, threatening to post a picture online. Alexis Reschuk joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. What picture would that have been, the one he threatened to post?
A topless photo of her. So a topless where she doesn't have anything on and exposing her breasts.
Joining me now, Chris Melcher. He's a veteran trial lawyer, celebrity lawyer, a partner at Walser, Melcher, and Yoda. He has deep experience in complex family law litigation at waltermelcher.com. Chris Melcher, this isn't helping anything. That is encompassed in this new federal indictment against John Paul Miller. Even if you're married to someone, you can't just post nudie shots of them without their consent.
What's going to be difficult is that the victim of these alleged offenses, Micah, can't speak for herself. And that creates a difficulty for the prosecution and an opportunity for the defense to try to explain these things, because couples do, get into arguments. They'll do things for whatever reasons. And this kind of gives John Paul Miller potentially a free hand in his defense to try and explain away what looks like some very awful facts.
Such as posting nudie shots of Micah that he took in private, posting them online. Let's just follow your argument through, Chris Melcher, to its logical conclusion. I think what you're saying in regular people talk, not lawyerese, is that Miller can now argue his wife Micah was fine with a nudie shot being posted on social. That was okay, that she was into that?
This is kind of the problem is that he can start making up or manufacturing defenses like that this was consented to, this was part of their relationship, she was okay with it, it was a joke, whatever he's going to say. Now, maybe these things don't make sense or they're not credible, but Micah's not there to defend herself. They're not there to say, no, I wouldn't have done that. Now, sometimes the circumstances show that no reasonable person would consent to something like that, and it's just a ridiculous defense. But my sense is there's going to be a lot of communications between these parties, and he may be able to establish something here, like with example, the tracking device. He's had some explanation why he might wanted to track her, why he wanted to control her movements, why he wanted to control her spending. He has had some explanations around that.
Okay, well, you know what you reminded me of, Chris Melcher, in my days as a felony prosecutor, when a defendant would say, Miss Grace, I want to plead guilty with an explanation. I don't care what his explanation is. Guilty. If he put a tracking device on her car and she did not consent to it, I don't care why he thought he needed to do it. Doesn't matter. State doesn't have to prove motive, does it, Chris Melcher?
Well, so there's a difference between being a crime and being an act of domestic violence, which is a civil matter. So under South Carolina law and other states,
Domestic violence is not a crime in your world.
No, it can be both. It can be an act of abuse that justifies a restraining order. It also can form a crime. But with a tracking device, the owner of a vehicle, whether it's jointly owned or solely owned, I don't know how this was titled, has the right to place a tracking device on it. So it's not a crime to do so, but placing a tracking device on her vehicle, even if legal under South Carolina law, without her consent and done for the purpose of tracking her movements for purposes of harassment, would be an act of domestic violence. But what I understand his statements to be is that he was concerned about her conduct and safety, and that he wanted to protect her. And just like a parent might, put a tracking device on a child or any loved one who maybe has issues, that is a protective measure. So this is what I'm saying he may very well claim.
Okay, Chris Melcher, now I know why you win so many cases. You're like a snake charmer. You go that way and that way with your crazy legal defense, and some people are actually going right along with you.